Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the channel. John Owen talks about sports and movies. Thank you for checking out today's video. I always appreciate the support. Let's get into it. So, the 2024 College Football Playoff is coming up in just a few days here on New Year's Day. And so I'm going to give my predictions on who I think is going to win the semifinal games and who I ultimately think will win the national championship. But make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe so you never miss out on any of the fun. Make sure you leave your thoughts on who you think is going to win and why. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Etc. But without further ado, let's get into the content of the video. What I want to do first is I just want to kind of survey the four teams and just talk about them individually. I think genuinely this is the deepest and best playoff field we've had up to date during the era of the four-team college football playoff. Legitimately. I think this is the first time, maybe ever, where I feel like it's an absolute toss up. I really don't think that any team would be a big favorite against any matchup. I think you can mix them up in any way, and they'd be really, really quite tantalizing and interesting, and just absolutely stellar matchups. And I think all four teams have a very legitimate chance of winning. I would put it at a even quarter split for each team wins the national title legitimately. And I think that's quite a testament to how good these teams are. I think Michigan is definitely the most different out of these four teams. They're very smash mouth. They're very defense and run game oriented. Um, they got JJ McCaffrey, excuse me, Blake Corum, um, Roman Wilson on the outside, a great offensive line per usual. And on defense, they're led by corner Will Johnson. They've got a great front seven as usual that Michigan does. They're very hard, very smash mouth football team. And I think that it's going to be really interesting to see um, how they match up with the teams that are so vastly different from them. And then our 2 and 3, Washington, Texas, I think are very, very similar to one another. So I think that game's gonna be really interesting. We'll get into that. But when you have such a high powered offense led by Michael Penix, Rome Adutsky, I think that's how you say his name. There are other weapons on the outside, and then Dylan Johnson at the running back. With maybe a marginal defense at best, and then with Texas, you've got Quinn Ewers, Mitchell, Worthy, Sanders. When they had Jordan Brooks, but he got hurt unfortunately. But they've got a great defensive line at front seven, led by Devontre Sweat. I think that's his first name. And then their back end and secondary is marginal too. And then Bama, oh Bama, you can't keep them out, man. You just can't. I think they're kind of an interesting mix between the other teams, because they've got the big play explosiveness with Jalen Monroe's legs and his deep ball capability. But they've got a really good defense led by Dallas Turner, who's proven himself to be successful post Will Anderson. And so I think they're kind of a mix to where they've got some physical. They're not as explosive, but they're also not as reliant as being smash mouth. So I think this is a really great field. I could go over 2 and be totally okay, or I could go over 3 with my predictions. I could sweep it. I really could. These games could go any way, and I think that's what makes it such an exciting playoff. Is because like when Notre Dame got in 2020, or when Cincinnati got in 2021 and had to play Bama. Um, there are times whenever we just know, or like Jalen Hurts OU team when they had to play LSU. We just knew that there was no shot those teams even had a chance. But that's not the case this year. Any four of these teams could win the national championship game, and I think the large majority of America would be not shocked at all by that result. But anyways, let's get into the specific games. So first off, we're gonna go with our 1-4 game. So Michigan, Bama, and the Rose Bowl. I mean, how more iconic can that get? I think that these two teams really match up well with each other. I think the struggle for Michigan is that they have not played anyone like Jalen Milroe all year. The ascension of Jalen Milroe has been one of the most interesting storylines of this year. His ability to elevate his game, to be smart with the football, to be able to become a better passer while still maintaining that electricity and athleticism and mobility to his game has elevated Bama into maybe the scariest team in this field. Maybe not the best, but definitely the scariest. Because it's Bama, you never want to play them. They're red hot. They got written off this year. They beat Georgia. They beat LSU. Their only loss is to number 3 Texas. You know, so I think they're a dangerous, scary team, like a really dangerous, scary team. Not that they don't have their flaws. Like I don't think they're the greatest in the passing game. I think that while they're solid to stout on defense, I think you can definitely like get your yards and get your points on them. I think this game is going to be kind of a first to 30 type game. I don't think it's going to be the most high scoring affair. Um, JJ McCarthy is going to have to, and I said McCaffrey, I apologize. JJ McCarthy is going to have to play really good in this game and make some excellent throws. This is not going to be the game where they line up against Penn State and they don't throw a pass in the second half. That's not going to happen here. This is not that type of game. So I think he's going to be the X factor to this game because I have confidence in Jalen Milroe. I have confidence in the Bama's ability to run the ball. They're going to get a few big shots on Michigan. They're just that explosive. But can JJ McCarthy make the throws and excel? We've seen him play really well in some of these big games, but they haven't asked him to do a lot in his 2 years as a starter. And he's got all the tools in town in the world. He is capable of doing it, but he's not called upon to do it consistently. I thought he played really well last year against TCU. He made some big time throws. It's hard when you give up 40 points though to win a game. So I think that's going to be really, really interesting. Can JJ McCarthy make the plays that are needed to beat this Bama team? I I think while JJ McCarthy might play well, there's something about this Bama team. There's something about this damn Bama team that I don't think Michigan wants any part of. You saw their reaction when Bama got in instead of Florida State. No one was excited. And I just don't think I think that how different Bama is from the other teams they've played is really gonna make the difference. And I think Jalen Milroe is gonna be the difference in this game. And I think Bama is gonna win this game and they're gonna win the Rose Bowl. All right, now this game, if you don't score 40, you're losing. You will not win this game if you don't score 40 points. It's just not gonna happen. Both of these teams are way too explosive on offense. I think the fact that Texas has really been able to put it together this year, which I predicted that they would put it together, not to this extent. I did not think they would make the playoff, but I did predict them to win Big 12 and kind of put it together. Quinn Ewers is really mature. He's going to come back, which is great. Mitchell, Worthy, Sanders. They've got a lot of dudes. They've got a lot of really big time playmakers on both sides of the ball. I think they're a really complete football team. But however, they did get the worst matchup for their weaknesses because as good as they are, their pass defense is very suspect. And who's arguably had the best passing game all year this year? The Washington Huskies, led by Heisman finalist Michael Penix, Rome. Their other weapons, they can also run the ball very effectively with Dylan Johnson. He put Oregon away by himself. Um, and so, as great as Texas is, I think they've got a really poor matchup. Um, However, I think all those weaknesses I just said for Texas also apply to Washington. Their defense has been great. They're worse against the run and in the front seven than Texas is. But I do think they're just tad more explosive. So I think in this game is and I think they'll be able to run the ball better. Because they do have a better running game with Jalen Johnson. So now the question becomes: does Washington's explosiveness overcome their deficiencies on defense. And you can pose the same question for UT. I think this game becomes more of limiting your weaknesses. I think whatever defense plays better, whoever can maybe get a turnover or two turnovers is going to go ahead and win this game. Um, Now, who do I think is going to win? Like I said, this is an absolute toss up. It could be anyone, and it pains me to say this as a Tech fan, as someone who goes to Texas Tech University, but I think UT is going to win. I think I'm picking UT. I think there's this aura around this UT team where they know they're back, but they're not saying it. And I think honestly that's really scary. Because when UT gets big wins in the past, it's like, oh, we're back, we're back, we're back. But this team hasn't said anything like that. They have absolutely denounced themselves from the we're back narrative. And I think that's gonna, at least at the bare minimum, carry them to a semifinal win. So now for our national title game, we've got a rematch between Bama and UT. And this is a very, very different Bama team than the first time these two teams played. Just because Jalen Milroe's game has improved tremendously, and the emergence of Jermaine Burton on the outside has also helped that ascension. And I think that this right here could be a shootout. Legitimately, it really could be a shootout. I think this is the type of game where if UT doesn't score 35 points, they won't win. Um, I really don't think that they're good enough on defense to be able to slow down or outright stop Jalen Milroe in this offense. Bama's got pass rushers, they've got corners, they've got people at every level that are going to be able to disrupt what Texas does. And it's really hard to beat someone twice. It really is. It's very difficult to go ahead and go in and beat someone twice. But I think UT has got the duels to go out there and compete and be right there with Bama. I think they're better at quarterback. They're better at receiver. They're just more explosive. And I think in a offensive tailored era that we're in, I think that could be enough for them to beat Bama. This is another absolute corn flip. I was torn. I was torn between picking this. But I think I can't believe I'm saying this. I can't believe I'm actively saying this out loud. I think UT is going to be your national champion. I just think they're too explosive. They're going to be too prepped. They're going to be too ready to go. Yeah, certainly they could get exposed for their secondary backhand weaknesses. But I just think that they're going to be explosive enough and ready to go. And go out there and win a freaking national title after all this time, and they are going to be back. But thank you guys for watching today's video. Like I said, this was a very difficult video for me to make just because I'm so torn between these matchups. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe so you never miss out on any of the fun. Check out the link content and have a great day.